Well, that was a little bit different. Bet you think you missed part of the lesson. You missed the cheesy intro music if you just started now. So today we're going to look at what does the Good Samaritan teach us about choices. Now this is a bit of a classic, the Good Samaritan parable. It's one that Jesus gave, and I'm sure it's one that you already probably have heard gazillions of times in your life. But it's really important that we do cover it because it fits forgiveness and reconciliation, which is the name of this unit, incredibly well. So today we're going to examine the impact of our choices and the actions on ourselves and others. So how do our choices and actions impact ourselves and other people? As always, do pause me as we go. It's going to be a good outcome this session, bearing in mind that you already have quite a lot of idea about the Good Samaritan already, I'm guessing. If we can describe how our actions can affect a situation, great. If you can explain how working with others can lead to difficult choices occasionally, and even better if you can apply our understanding of this parable to society today. So we're going to be a bit of a reflective learner actually today. We're going to be thinking about why we think what we do, and we're also going to be looking at moral and social. Again, I know we've been focused on that a lot, but that's forgiveness and reconciliation for you. During today's session, we going to look at some definitions, a mind map, parable, and the action as well. But let's just start with creating the ultimate team. I want you to imagine now that you're in a classroom where you are going to select people to have a straw football competition. You know, that's when you've got the straws, you're blowing down it, and you've got the ball bouncing around. You need to select 2 other people that will be on your team. Okay, so think about your class. Obviously, you're not in your class when you're watching this, or at least I very much doubt that you are, because the teacher's obviously having a quite enjoyable lesson, or not, if they've got this on. So think about who would you choose to be on your team, and you don't have to write anything down. Just want you to think about that for a moment. So pause me now while you make those decisions. Who would you choose? 2 people to help you with a blow straw football competition. Okay, now you were at that point obviously the leader. It's a bit of reflection time. I wonder how you made the decisions that you did in terms of who was going to be on your team. Did you think about how people would feel? From that, I wonder what your experience was. If you were chatting to other people about this, was it easy to make these decisions, or was it actually quite hard? Did you go for the person that has the loudest voice, or did you go for those that you think would have the precision to blow that ball in the right place? If you were chosen, how do you think you would feel? Then think about the people that you didn't choose. Yeah, really harsh, but that's part of being a leader, isn't it? Who did you not choose, and why did you not choose them? How might they feel, do you think, if you've rejected them and put them on the scrap pile of non-blow straw football? Maybe I'm overplaying it, but you've got the idea there. You see, what you've done is you've done some sort of prejudgment, prejudice, if you would. I love this picture. Hi, I'm a triangle. I hate triangles. The circle hasn't got to know the triangle. I wonder if just think for a moment what I might understand by the word prejudice. So pause me now. Just have a think about that now. Okay, now I'm fairly convinced that you've probably heard the word prejudice before. Prejudice is, some people translate as judging someone before you know them, judging a book by a cover, for want of another term. The dictionary definition of prejudice is as an unreasonable dislike of a particular group of people or things, or preference for one group of people over another. Okay, so think about this for a second. Imagine that you are a girl. Not difficult, I imagine, for some of you to imagine that. And what happens is you're in a classroom environment and your dream man appears at the door, your dream bloke. You've just prejudiced him on his looks. Harsh, but true. If you prejudge a situation, you form an opinion before you actually know all the facts. You might not know anything about this bloke, but you're probably imagining about him now. Yeah. Come back to this lesson and don't be thinking about that bloke anymore. Can you get a definition down of prejudice now and maybe come up with an example? And obviously, some of you will know about Martin Luther King. That's one example of prejudice. But come up with a list. Come up with a definition of prejudice and come back to me. So pause me now while you do that. So we said then that we describe our actions have an effect on people. We haven't really done that yet, but that's okay. We're on the right pathway. What we have done is we have thought about teams and we have thought about definitions. So we're going to go on to our mind map activity now. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to now to think about different ways that people in our own society experience prejudice. So how is it that prejudice occurs in our society? So consider, for example, where there might be division or people being treated unfairly or discriminated against. So pause me now while you do that and let's see what you can come up with. I've given you religion there as an example. Okay, I wonder what you came up with. I mean, race obviously would come through. You've got things like homophobia. You've got the idea of the way people live, the way people speak, the way people dress. All of those are examples of prejudice. Let's think about the parable of the Good Samaritan though. I've got a little clip to show you. It's really important you know this parable. Forgive me if you do know this parable already, but I wonder if you've not seen this before. So let's just pin back our ears and let's just watch this.
God's story, the Good Samaritan. So part of God's story is about a Good Samaritan, and it goes like this. When Jesus lived on earth, he often told stories to teach us things. Stories that teach a lesson are called parables. One day, Jesus told a parable about a good guy from a place called Samaria, a Good Samaritan, to a group of Jewish people. It all started when a Jewish expert in the law asked Jesus, "What must I do to receive eternal life?" Basically, he was asking, what do I have to do to be perfect? Since this guy was an expert in the law, he thought he already knew how to be perfect because he knew all the rules. He just wanted to see what Jesus would say. Of course, Jesus knew what the man was thinking, so he asked him, "What is written in the law?" The man said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as you love yourself." So he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus answered him by telling this story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Everybody listening was Jewish, and they could probably all picture the exact road Jesus was talking about. He continued, "A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side." You might expect a priest who was supposed to serve God to help, but he didn't stop. Then Jesus said, "A Levite came to the place and saw him, but he passed by on the other side too." Levites were assistants to priests, so maybe you'd expect them to help too, but he didn't stop either. Finally, Jesus said, a Samaritan came along. Remember, a Samaritan is a person from Samaria. That's near Israel, where God's family, the Jews, lived. But here's the thing. Jews and Samaritans didn't get along. In fact, nobody hearing this story would ever expect the Samaritan to help, because Samaritans and Jews couldn't stand each other. But Jesus said, when the Samaritan saw the man, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out money and gave it to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will pay you back for any extra expense you have." Then Jesus asked, "Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law didn't even want to say the word Samaritan, but he admitted, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." In other words, go and love everyone, even people we don't like or people who everybody else wants to avoid. See, when we show love, we're obeying Jesus. Obeying God doesn't mean just doing what his rules say. It means loving him more than anything and showing his love to every single person that we meet. And that's the story of the Good Samaritan. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. A man asked Jesus how to get eternal life. Jesus said, "What is written in the law?" The man said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as you love yourself." Then the man asked, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus told a story. If you missed Jesus' story, here's the quick version. A Jewish man got beat up. A priest walked by. A priest assistant passed by. A man from Samaria actually did help. That was a surprise. Jesus had taught them, we obey God when we show love. And that's part of God's story.
Okay, now we need to really dig a little bit deeper with what's going on in this parable just to understand the impact that this has. So in Jesus' time, Jews considered the Samaritans to be outcasts. They were second-class citizens. They were wannabe Jews, but didn't live in the right place. In fact, it was one of those that they were so similar, but they treated them as enemies because they just weren't the same. And they would have nothing to do with them. So this story that you've just seen that Jesus gave was really offensive, because it indicated that the people that people thought that would support and help the Jewish people didn't. But the enemy of people, imagine a Man U supporter helping someone from Liverpool. Yes, I did just say that, and I don't mean it, because there are some really nice Man U supporters out there. I've yet to meet them, but I'm going to be quiet now. So the journey from Jerusalem to Jericho was dangerous. It was 17 miles long, and it was over a kilometre in terms of distance of up and down and up and down and up and down. So it was a dangerous route, and robbers did quite often hang around deliberately to attack people. We're going to think about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, I was taking this from the Archbishop of York Young Leaders Award, which is something I used to be involved with quite heavily, but I really like this activity, so I've used it. And what I'd like you to do in the description below is you will find some cards, some character cards, and I would like you to read those over and choose one of those. The bystander, the Jew, the Samaritan, there's a whole range of them there. And I'd like you to reconstruct the parable using your own experience. I want you to reconstruct the parable, imagining you're one of these people. What happened? What did you see? And what difference did it make? So this is going to take you a chunk of activity time. So pause me now. Let's get on with that. Use the description below, as I say. Access those little cards. Choose one of the characters and write out the parable from that perspective. So let's get that done. Pause me now. Come back to me when you're done. Okay, so we said then that what we would do was we were thinking about examples of prejudice. Now, Simon Town said this: we lose humanity in our prejudice. Just think about that for a second. We lose humanity in our prejudice. What do you think he means by that? Okay, now what I think he means by this, and you can disagree with me on this, is that our humanity is what makes us human. Our humanity is what helps us understand each other. And if we lose that because we're being prejudiced, then we lose a little bit about what it means to be us. The Bible talks we're made in Imago Dei, the image of God. Well, if that's the case, then actually we should see God's value in everyone. I think that's kind of the point. So we lose a bit of who we are if we prejudge other people. We're coming into land. We've got a few more little bits just to finish off with. So it's going to be good if we could describe how our actions have effect on situations. And in a classroom environment, I would have had you having some discussion about that, but you've done that through the little character cards and stuff. Great if we can explain how working with others can lead us to make difficult choices occasionally. Now, we haven't really covered that just yet, but we are starting to think about the parable and how it fits into society. So that's what we're going to do now. I want you to think about 3 situations from your mind map, maybe differently if you don't. Anyway, I'd like to come up with 3 situations where groups of people suffer prejudice and are not treated individually, humanely, or with compassion in our society. So think about an example in the world, in the UK, and your community. So let's think about that for a second. One example of each of those. So pause me now and come back to me when you're done. Okay, so with that done, I want you now to put one of those or two of those and put it into a little story, or what difference this parable would make if you'd rather do it that way. So look at the pictures behind me if you needed some ideas, because all of these are ideas that you can be using as well. And I want you to create a little story yourself that shows the difference that this parable would make today. And that's going to take you to the rest of the lesson. As I say, as always, do photograph your work, do send it through to your teachers, because we do like to see what you're up to. And I hope this lesson's made you think actually about maybe some people that you may need to think about the way that you need to be compassionate with them a little bit more. Obviously, don't put yourselves at risk. I'm leaving that there. Thanks for your time. Stay safe, wash hands, God bless you. I'll be seeing you soon.